Hey everybody, this is Cory Miller, CoryMiller.com. So I was talking to my friend Mike Demo at WordCamp Dallas this weekend, and he was telling me about what he's doing now. Now, Mike, I know you were with BullGrid at some point, and it's kind of a family of things that you've been involved in here. But you were telling me about Web Ventures, and it's really compelling because having been in WordPress for, 13 years now, now I'm a WordPress blogger and a WordPress volunteer, by the way, or WordCamp volunteer. What Web Ventures is doing, what you're doing specifically, is really compelling because it shows that the community, I think, is maturing. And it's just exciting to see a fund like and a setup like Web Ventures doing work in the space, investing in businesses. And so I thought I'd bring you on and share a little bit about what you're doing. So Mike Demo, Web Ventures. Mike, thanks for being on the interview today.
Oh, my pleasure. It was a great catching up with you down in Texas. Now I'm back up here at Minnesota, and the weather is not as nice.
For sure. So, okay, Mike, would you tell me a little bit about you and what you're doing at Web Ventures?
Yeah, sure. Like Cory said, my name is Mike Demo, and I am the lead handshaker, a very fancy title for Web Ventures. And basically, I'm the community guy, and I get the joy to be able to go around the WordCamps and other types of events and meet people where they are and connect with this amazing community we have in WordPress and other similar ecosystems, and just to see if we can maybe provide value and help some of these WordPress-based businesses.
Yeah, I love your approach too, by the way, Mike. We're talking about how you have conversations. And I did notice actually when I emailed you to set up this interview that you had lead handshaker. And I thought that's really awesome. I wanted to kind of steal that. Like that's my gig is handshake guy. But I love your approach too. So could you tell me so Web Ventures was kind of the iteration spin out of one of the founders at InMotion Hosting.
Yeah, so InMotion Hosting was primarily founded by two gentlemen, Todd Robinson and Sunil Saxena. Sunil has a passion to growing businesses, and that's what he really enjoys doing. InMotion's grown a whole bunch. So what he wanted to do is he wanted to help small businesses, specifically WordPress-based businesses, kind of grow to the next level. And so we started a separate entity called Web Ventures, where about $5 million we have in this first initial round that we've publicized. And we're trying to help WordPress-based businesses and any businesses that are kind of in the web space. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a WordPress plugin, but if it works in that ecosystem, we're interested in talking and helping those companies get from one level to the next, because a lot of people can get to like a good spot. Like let's say you're a plugin owner as an example, and you make a decent little side income. You might have 20,000 active installs or whatever it is, but you're at that weird spot where you can't leave your day job because you got expenses and insurance and stuff like that, but you don't want to get rid of this plugin because it's being used by all these people. So Sunil wanted to help people get past that growing pain stage, because that's where we find that a lot of these WordPress-based businesses kind of fail when they get some initial success, but they don't know how to like turn it into a real business. I use the term accidental business owner when people start stuff because of passion, but they don't really think about it being a business. They're just doing it because they enjoy it.
A lot of that in WordPress specifically. A lot of my dear friends did something because they were interested in it, passionate about it, like you said, and then one day wake up and go, holy crap, I own a business that has a lot of substance,
Yeah.
Revenue, perhaps even team members. I think there's a lot in the space too that you talked about, the hump of I'm doing this on the side, I'm making some money, but I haven't got over the hump of being able to quit my day job for whatever reason. Maybe there's family setups that, entrepreneurship has this level of uncertainty sometimes, oftentimes, and or financial, it hasn't gotten to the level to sustain it. And I love that. I mean, the headline here is $5 million that Sunil has put in. That amount of money to invest in WordPress-based businesses is pretty dang incredible. we've seen a lot of movement in WordPress, particularly with Automatic. Just went through another round of funding with a ton of money backed by Salesforce's fund.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've had a couple of rounds, of course, that raised a lot of money at a big valuation. The hosting companies, particularly, have made some very big acquisitions. I'm part of that story with iThemes to Liquid Web. WP Engine is really making some huge moves, and GoDaddy, of course, has made some great moves in the past too. And then my friends at EIG, I think, are a little bit kind of calm right now, not doing too much that I've heard of, at least. But I love the fact that your fund, what you guys do, are very unique. And I thought of my friend Syed Balki. He's got an accelerator at WP Beginner,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, man, this is great to have these kind of opportunities. Okay, so we talked about the kind of the types of businesses. Can you kind of set up too? I know like there's other components within the family. Like for instance, is BoldGrid a part of Web Ventures? How does that all work?
We're going through a legal restructuring right now, so it's going to be a little bit in shift, but right now, BoldGrid's one of the brands, InMotion Hosting's one of the brands, Web Hosting Hub's another of the brands. We have an announcement we'll be making at WordCamp US on another new brand that will be coming into the family. And then we have letters of intent out for some other things, which hopefully we'll be announcing closer to the new year. So yeah, it's all kind of the same ecosystem. And that's what we're trying to do is we have around 2 to 3 million WordPress users across all of our brands and families of companies. And we want to make the best toolbox for those users. So everything we do is focused on our users and what can be a good fit for them. So whenever we talk to a potential investment or possibly acquisition, we look to see what verticals these might go for, what avatars, and we try to tell the story from our users' perspective because that's what we care most. I mean, InMotion was founded, even though that is a separate brand from some of these others, on thrilling customers, and we have that same passion now, and because we want to be able to offer our users, be it if they're an InMotion customer or a BoldGrid customer or a Web Hosting Hub customer or any of these other brands we'll be announcing in the future coming months, that if we make a recommendation, it fits in. So we can help a plugin kind of grow by introducing them to a lot of new users, but we need to make sure that story makes sense and we're not just, spamming our user base, because that's something we're really passionate about.
Yeah, I know we can't talk about the one that's coming online for you all after WordCamp or at WordCamp US, but I want to say it's going to be big. It's a big deal, and I'm excited for you guys to announce that. Okay, so if somebody's interested, they're talking to you, and you're the handshake guy. How does that process work?
So I like to say I'm the friendly face. So basically we just have a high level conversation and say, hey, if this is something generally maybe you might be interested in looking at, maybe now or in the future, we do an initial call with Tim, and he's our senior manager. He has a financial analyst background. And we kind of just do a half-hour discussion, kind of learning what the goals are for the company. Like, what's your plan? Where you want to go? What are your goals? Some entrepreneurs just want to go on and fund their next adventure and they want to sell their current company. Others just need help to grow. Everyone has a different story. And I always like to tell people, don't look at some of these sales and acquisitions. They might be at chapter 20 in their story. You might only be at chapter 2 in your story. So try not to, compare yourself. And we always try to look at everyone individually. And then we kind of talk about how it might fit in with our ecosystem. And if we feel there might be a fit, then we get on like a mutual non-disclosure agreement, and then we start exploring that in a little more detail. But at any time, I always tell all these business owners, do what's best for the business. I mean, if it's not the right time, that's fine. Be open and honest with us. I mean, on our side, we can only process so many deals at a time. So we're going to be honest with you. And I find that really works. We just want to be honest and have these businesses grow to the next level. Honestly, if it's just us giving them some decent advice, but they don't want to give up equity or anything, and maybe they might want to sell in a couple of years, that's fine. Maybe they who thought they wanted to sell, but then something changed and now they want to stay with the business. That's fine too. We are just happy to talk with anyone, give our advice and help in any way we can. And that's what I tell people is, even if there's not a deal, like, I'm not commissioned. I'm literally just community. I am happy just being out there and meeting you, and we're happy to keep talking as long as it makes sense, and we'll stay friends regardless. But if I can do anything to anyone for introductions or give advice or at any way, I'm happy to do it, regardless if there is a business deal on the side end of that, because that's secondary to what we're trying to do. Our goal is just to try to be known as the helpful people that kind of help the community. And if there's business, great. If not, that's cool too. Whatever's best for the business is what we care about.
One of the biggest questions I get asked, particularly after my the acquisition at iThemes, is how, takeaways and things like that. And I always kind of say, if I look back and rewind the tape, that I would have had more intentional conversations like these, because one, when I started the business, I didn't have an exit plan. People asked me for years, and I was like, I found the best job I've ever had, working with the most incredible people ever and serving amazing, awesome customers. Why would I want to exit that? However, things change. Markets change, customers change, WordPress has changed, and did change in my 13 years or whatever. So I tell them, be ready. So I'm curious, have the conversations, particularly with people like Web Ventures and you, because build for profit, one, it should be a profitable company. Second, it should be purposeful, like it should do things in your life and for people. But the third now I've added, which is potential purchase. And a sellable company is a great company for the entrepreneur. If you've done the things to kind of orient where people would want to buy your company, that means probably, likely, you've got a great company. It's going well for you, and that just gives you more options. So I'm curious if you have suggestions or tips for how someone can get ready to prepare themselves and their business for a conversation like one with Web Ventures.
Yeah, so with us, we're happy to talk to anyone at any stage, but let's say just you're starting new, or you just start thinking like, I'm not even willing to have a conversation, but what are some of the things we can do to kind of prep the books? Some of the things we see quite a bit is not having any sort of formal business plan. They're just kind of doing stuff in the seat of their pants. And I know business plan's a scary word, and you search on Google business plan templates and you get these 85-page diatribe books. But it can just be as simple as like a one sheet. Like if you Google a one sheet business plan, it just goes back to having goals and basic stuff on paper. I'm a big fan that any goals that you set for yourself should be SMART goals, going back to high school: specific, measurable, attainable, and have a time set on it, so that there's no binary. Like, did I succeed or not succeed? And it shouldn't be oh, well, I don't know, or a maybe. It should be yes or no. And if it's no, that's fine. You learn stuff from it, but the goal should be very specific and have metrics behind it. So have some sort of a business plan. Know your costs. What we see quite a bit is people running personal expenses through the business. That makes it a little challenging when you're looking at valuation. Also, we find if you have a plug-in business, but you also have a consulting business, it gets a little confusing if you run everything through the same business entity, because your business might look very profitable on one side, but then when we get into it, it might be due to the consulting, which is nothing wrong with consulting. But if maybe you're wanting to sell just the plugin side, it changes the story a little bit. So those are just some basic things you can do to get ready now. But honestly, it just boils down to be deliberate in your decisions and spend a couple days every year and plan. My biggest recommendation is there's a book called by Gino Wickman called The Entrepreneurial Operating System, called Traction. I recommend everyone follow that. If Traction's a little too boring for you, they have a second book called Get a Grip, which is more entertaining. But honestly, I'm a huge fan of the EOS system. I've seen companies go from $4 million companies to $40 million companies in less than 5 years following his system. And that alone can be one of the best things you can do to help make your business a little more deliberate in your decisions.
That's a great book. That's kind of the work. It doesn't do traction, but my partner Jeff does. Leader.team, strategic planning, really kind
Sure.
of focused progression. Having meetings and traction is a great book to get that conversation started. I
Yeah.
wanted to come back to you. There's two kind of things that I heard you saying that also in my experience. One is the business plan type thing, having something there on paper. For us, it was a deck, having a deck. And if you
Yep.
think about it, we build products and there's this thing called brochure. It's kind of an outdated term maybe, but
Yeah.
still, if you think of a deck, it's like, this is what I tell people is you have to detach emotionally from this baby, the startup that you built, detach in this process because you can take things really personal when you're talking about money and acquisition and everything. But having a deck is sharing the best and brightest about what's going on in the business and having a good handle on that. And the second thing you take, which is such brilliant advice, is I know it wasn't for us. We had one business, we didn't have like a lot of the people you're talking about, particularly in WordPress, is consulting. And then they started building a product and it's all under one P&L, which is tough when you're talking about acquisition because a lot of the things we're talking about are more product specific. So separating those P&Ls, it's a tough thing. I've actually got a client I need to go talk to you about that. Separating the P&Ls, whether it's a separate LLC or whatever, but having separate things so that you can have an accurate read. But you mentioned something that's a nuance that we all kind of do, which is running a lot of personal expenses to the business. I know
Yep.
it's sometimes a tax help for us. However, it muddies the water when we're talking about acquisition. Thankfully, we didn't do that with iThemes, and had some entrepreneurs that gave us that advice years ago. Is to just don't do those. Be really selective what we do because it kills your EBITDA, which is often a
Mm.
metric for how people value companies. Earnings before taxes, interest, and depreciation, or something like that.
Mm.
EBITDA, essentially your net profit. So a clean P&L and being able to look and that's superb advice, Mike. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the other thing I would say is, as far as valuations go, the best thing you can do to help your valuation is to help your profit margin. That's probably one of the first things people will look at is what the margin is on your profit, and we have our things that we look at if it's like a really great profit margin, average, or not so great, and then that's kind of where we start the discussion. Obviously, there's other things that go into valuation, like brand awareness and user base and things like that as well. But try to clean up that profit margin as much as you can because it's just going to make a stronger business for you. So.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's a win-win. So I think a lot of people get kind of feel weird when they talk about selling their business because there's relationships, particularly with team that it affects, right? And that was the same with me. But hey, sellable business is a great business to also own
Yeah.
as the entrepreneur. So that's really good advice. Mike, did we miss anything? Anything you want to share? And then I'll ask you also how they can connect with you and start some of those conversations.
Sure. I think that a lot of people don't step back and like look at the success that they've done. I was talking to someone just at the WordCamp last weekend, and it was a woman, and I was like, "Hey, what do you do?" "Oh, I just kind of do websites on the side." "Oh, so you have an agency?" "No, I wouldn't call it an agency. We just have 4 people on my team." That's an agency. And I hear a lot of the plugin owner like, "Oh, well, we're not doing that well. We're only converting at 9%." Which I'm like, 9% free to premium, that's above industry average.
It's
Um,
multiple above.
yeah. And I'm just, that's above average in our space. Like, good job. And, so if we can fill the top of the funnel, theoretically, it's
Oh
just
yeah.
math at that point. So I find a lot of times people don't take the wins, and they always are looking for reasons to beat themselves down. So it's not easy to get here. And, we're just trying to help businesses kind of get to that next level. If it's a fit to work with us, fine. If it's not, that's cool. We just want to see this infrastructure get strong because that just helps everyone. So.
Yeah. That's really good stuff. Okay, Mike, thank you for that. Where can people start the conversation with you and Web Ventures?
Sure. So if you go to our website, www.webventures.io, there's a little form you can fill out there, and it'll ask you to get a free consultation call. If you want to email me directly, it's just Mike Demo, MIKEDEMO @webventures.io. Or if you want to be super casual, just tweet me @MPMike.
Excellent. I'll put those in the show notes too. Thank you so much, Mike. I'm excited about what you're doing. I'm looking forward to your announcement in the next week or two, that big one, and all you're doing in the WordPress community.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Cory.